Hello guys, in this video we are going to talk about the permanent mandibular first molar. So this is the right permanent mandibular first molar, and this is the largest tooth in the mandibular arch, and it is sixth position from the midline, and this is the largest tooth, and it has five cusps, so three on the buccal side, these three, one, two, three, and two on the lingual side, so that makes total five. So let's start with the chronology of this tooth. So the first evidence of calcification start at the birth, and the crown is completed at the age of 2 to 3 years. Also, this tooth erupt at the age of 6 to 7 years, while the root is completed at 9 to 10 years. So it has two roots. And the dimension of this tooth is the cervico-occlusal length is 7.5 mm. So from the cervical to occlusal, so from here to up to here, the length is 7.5 mm, while length of the root is 14 mm. From here to here, tip of the root, it is 14 mm. And distal diameter of the crown is 11 mm. So this is the distal diameter, this is 11 mm. And distal diameter of crown at the cervix, so on the cervix the distal diameter is 9 mm. Also, buccolingual diameter of the crown is, so here is the buccolingual diameter. So from the buccal to lingual diameter of the crown is 10 mm, while on the cervix the buccolingual diameter of the crown at the cervix is 9 mm. So this is the morphology of the tooth. Morphology of tooth are important because they helps in fabrication of crown, also helps in restoration of the tooth, and they are also important during extraction of the molars tooth. That's why they are important. Now let's study this tooth from the buccal aspect. So as it lies toward the cheeks, so it is called buccal aspect, and the crown is roughly trapezoid in shape. So when we draw the outline of the crown, this roughly resembles the trapezoid shape, and all the five cusps are visible from this surface. So the two buccal cusps are visible, and two lingual cusps are also visible, and the one distal cusp, so all five cusps are visible. So this is the mesio buccal cusp, and this is the mesio distobuccal cusp, and this is the distal cusp, while this is the distolingual cusp, and this is the mesiolingual cusp. So these are the cusps present here, and two developmental groups are present. So this is the buccal developmental group, and this separate the mesiobuccal cusp and the distobuccal cusp. So this developmental group, that is buccal developmental group, separate them, so while the distal developmental group is present here, and this group separates the distobuccal cusp and the distal cusp. Also, the mesial contact area is at the junction of occlusal and medial thirds. So when we divide the crown into three equal half like this, so this is the cervical third of the crown, this is the middle third of the crown, this is the occlusal third of the crown, and the mesial contact area lies at the junction of occlusal and middle third. So this is the junction of occlusal and middle third, so mesial contact area lies here, and the distal contact area is little lower than on the medial contact area. So distal contact area is slightly lower somewhere here. The mesial outline of the crown is concave at cervical third up to its junction and convex above the contact area. So this is the mesial outline of the crown, and it is slightly concave from the cervical to this contact area up to here, and above this area it is convex, as you can see. So this is the mesial outline of the crown, while the distal outline of the crown is straight above the cervical to its junction. So from the distal outline of the crown, it is straight from the cervical to its junction area. So this seems more straight from the cervical to its contact area, and above this area it is slightly convex. So you can see it is slightly convex. Also, the cervical line is irregular, so this cervical line seems little bit irregular in this tooth, and both roots are visible, that is mesial and distal. So this is the mesial root, this is the distal root, and the point of bifurcation is 3 mm below the cervical line. So distance between from the cervical to up to here, point of bifurcation, this is 3 mm. Now let's see the lingual aspect of the crown. So this is the lingual aspect of the crown as it lies toward the tongue, so called lingual aspect. So crown is roughly trapezoid in shape and three cusps are visible. So this is the mesiolingual cusp, and this is the distolingual cusp, and the small portion of distal cusp. So three crown cusps are visible, and the mesiolingual cusp is the widest and it has highest cusp tip. So this cusp is the widest and it has highest cusp tip. Also, the mesiolingual cusp and the distolingual cusp are separated by the lingual developmental group. So this is the lingual developmental group, and this separate the mesiolingual cusp and distolingual cusp. And the mesial outline of the crown is convex from the cervical to the marginal ridge. So this mesial outline of the crown is convex from the cervical to the marginal ridge, while the distal outline of the crown is straight from the cervical to the contact area. So this is the distal outline of the crown. It is straight from the cervical to the contact area somewhere here, and again it is convex above the contact area. So above the contact area it seems convex. Also, cervical line is irregular. Again, here cervical line is irregular somehow, and the point of the bifurcation is 4 mm below the cervical line. From here to here, the length is 4 mm. Now let's see the mesial aspect. So this is the mesial aspect, and the crown is rhomboidal in shape. So this is somehow rhomboidal in shape. If we draw the outline of the crown, it resembles to rhomboidal, and it tilt toward the lingually. So this crown tilt towards the lingual side, so slightly towards the lingual side. And buccal outline of the crown is convex while lingual outline is straight. So this is the buccal outline of the crown, and this is more convex, while on the lingual outline of the crown this is straight. And the cervical line is irregular. So this cervical line is more irregular, although it is straight here, but it is irregular in most of the cases. And the buccal cusp is flat while the lingual cusp is sharp. So if we see the buccal cusp here, this seem more flat, and while the lingual cusp they seem more sharp. And the root is conical in shape. So only one root is visible from the surface, and the root is conical in shape. While on the distal aspect, so this is the distal aspect, so the crown is again rhomboidal in shape, and because the crown is shorter, the most of the buccal, lingual and occlusal surface can be seen. So the crown is shorter in this aspect, so buccal surface can be seen, and the lingual surface can be seen, and also the occlusal surface can be seen. So even the occlusal surface can be seen, and greater part of occlusal surface is seen in this aspect. So from the distal aspect we can see lots of the occlusal part of the tooth. And also cervical line is irregular here, so the cervical line is bit irregular from this aspect, and distal root is seen and it is narrower. So this distal root is seen and it seems more narrower than on the mesial aspect. Now let's see the crown from the occlusal aspect. So this is the occlusal aspect of the crown, and this is hexagonal in shape. So if we draw the outline of the crown, this resembles to the hexagonal in shape somehow. So it resembles to the hexagonal. And buccolingual measurement is greater than mesiodistal measurement. So the length from the buccal to the lingual length is greater than from mesial to distal. So this length is greater than this length. Also there are five cusps. So these five cusps are mesio, buccal, and distobuccal cusp, and this is distal cusp, and this is mesiolingual, and this is distolingual. So the mesiobuccal cusp is the largest cusp, and mesiolingual cusp is the second largest. So mesiolingual cusp is the second largest cusp, while distolingual is the third largest cusp, and distobuccal is the fourth largest, and this is the smallest cusp. Also, it has four developmental groups, so they are the central developmental groups. So this is the central developmental groups, the lines on the present on the center, and also on the side there is the mesiobuccal developmental group. So this is the mesiobuccal developmental group, and this is the distobuccal developmental group. So this is the distobuccal developmental group, and on the lingual side there is a lingual developmental group. So this is the lingual developmental group, and it has three fossas. So the fossas are the central fossa and mesial triangular fossa and distal triangular fossa. So this is the central fossa, and on here there is a mesial triangular fossa, and here the distal triangular fossa. So it has three fossas. Also, it has three pits, that is central pits here, here in the central pits, and also mesial triangular pit here, and distal triangular pit here. And in conclusion, this is the largest tooth in the mandibular arch, and it has five cusps, that is two on the buccal and two on the lingual and one on the distal. Also, it has two roots, that is mesial and distal. And the buccal surface has two developmental grooves, that is mesiobuccal and distobuccal developmental groove. Also, occlusal outline is rectangular in shape. So that was it. Feel free to comment your questions.